The ness is I didn't rebel against Frumkeit and Yiddishkeit.
All right.
But by nature, I was a happy-go-lucky, free person. I didn't like that Russian. New Torah, mitzvahs, Rebbe, Eberster. I know there's Eberster. And deep down in my gut, he created me, he made me, he put me down here for a purpose. And he made me a Lubavitcher for a purpose. And I have to work with what I have. And it took me many, many years of contemplating and thinking and setbacks and going up and down to realize that the Eberster gave you your life that's for you.
Welcome to Homesick for Lubavitch, a podcast where we explore Lubavitch identity in the year 2024. My name is Benzi Afson, and I will be your host. Let's begin. All right, so we are here with Reb Yossel Mochkin of Crown Heights. I don't think he needs too much of an introduction. Been kind enough to make some time to have a conversation here. Thank you to Mendy for making the introduction.
My son Mendy.
Your son Mendy, yes. Mendy's I don't keep in touch with him as much as I'd like, but he's a very good man and a good friend. Yeah, so we are here with Reb Yossel, and we were already beginning to talk before we started recording. I think I just want to give a little bit of a intro to why we started talking about this. So you asked me what this podcast is about and why I do it and what my angle is. And I said, Lubavitchers talk a lot about the Rebbe, and they talk a lot about shlichus, but we don't talk so much about Lubavitchers, about being a Lubavitcher. And that's when you began to say what you're saying now. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Yossel Mochkin, and come from a lineage of Chassidim till the Alter Rebbe from almost all four sides.
All four sides.
All four sides. My Zayde Peretz and my Baba Henya were both from Lubavitcher stock. His grandfather was a Zitzer by the Tzemach Tzedek, and he was called Leib Bar Leib because his Shver was called Leib Bar Leib. They went back since the Alter Rebbe on.
The name Mochkin itself, or just the...
The name Mochkin also goes way back.
Uh-huh.
I don't know when it started, but I saw in the...
What does it mean? Do you know what it means?
I saw in the Talk Morgen Journal once. I was thinking, what is it? Actually, Mochkin means Mem Tzadik is Meir Tzedek. Kin means the son. It means the rabbi's son.
Ah, interesting.
It makes sense or it doesn't make sense, but I saw it printed in the forwards years ago. I'm talking 50 years ago.
Mochkin.
Because there was some Zionist Mochkin. They were relatives. They were one family.
Uh-huh.
And
so there's only one Mochkin family.
One Mochkin family, yeah. My grandfather came here, Peretz came here in the 1940s when he came 1950, and till he managed to come here, and then he went. He had their cousins in Chicago, and he was not happy seeing them. They were not religious already, so he came there, but didn't work out for him.
Uh-huh. So he had cousins here, also Mochkin.
He had cousins Mochkins in Chicago.
Right.
They were wealthy people, educated people.
Right.
Talented people, learned people, but in America, the Yiddishkeit was only my grandfather kind of persevered.
So all the Lubavitch Mochkins are all from Paris. Is there one Lubavitch Mochkin family?
Yeah, it goes back to the same question that I think is underemphasized and hard to understand. Where is all the dynasty of Schneerson? The Alter Rebbe had so many kids. Tzemach Tzedek had 5 kids, Rebbes, and so many Tzetzoim and Tzetzoim. Where are they all? Where's the whole dynasty? Where's Koppus? My grandmother was her father was a chassid of, I believe, the Nezhin, Retzitzer. There was 5 sons, so there was Ladir, the Retzitzer, and then there was Koppus, and where's the whole dynasty?
Right. Oh, so your grandmother comes from one of those offshoots of
offshoots
Lubavitch.
of yeah.
And then they
And
still
she came back.
they still married each other.
She married Peretz, and yeah, she married Peretz, and
so that was the thing, that people would marry each other.
this in itself is a history that her father had 5 Versetzner Töchter, and they
What does that mean? Just for people who don't know.
they were older. They were already in their 30s. They didn't know how old my grandmother was, whether she was 10 years old, 8 years older than my grandfather, or 15 years. It was the Yeshemrim.
She was older than your grandfather.
She was older than my grandfather, like 10, 15 years.
Wow.
Or 8 to 10 to 15 years. There was we're not clear on it.
Yeah, nobody knows how old anybody was.
They actually had very good records in Russia, but this is the fact. The people themselves, till the Rebbe came and made a whole to-do about Yemeledes, people never paid much attention to it. So B'mela, and a lot of parents passed away young, right. And there was no communication in that sense that records and history got lost.
Right.
So my grandmother, they didn't know how old she was, and it was like this. So the version I heard was, she was a pharmacist by trade. She learned pharmacist. There was no Besrivkis or Besyakov. She didn't really. She was really very poor, even in Ivre. But brilliant people had a memory. Eisen.
Yeah, Tzedek. They used to daven and learn Chumash with Yiddish. Yeah.
Whatever it is, I don't know that, but
my grandmother often was like that.
Could be, yeah. So, and then she became blind. So it's natural that she didn't study or learn much.
She became blind as a young woman.
She was in Paris. It was already after they left Russia. She figured it was a cold, and she didn't go to the doctor. It was their primitive approach to life.
Right. Skipping the war.
She let glaucoma, which runs in families. Actually, I have glaucoma in one eye. It's unusual.
Really?
But and I came to the eye doctor when I was like 35. I didn't have any problems, and he said to me, "You could start taking drops now, but you have to take it all your life, or you'll deal with it when it comes." And like everything else, I said to myself, it's very hard for me to be a Balmasuder and be tied down. And even now, when I have to take it, I forget many times. Slick mir nicht den Kopf, the erste Sache, before I go to sleep. So it's a very hard thing for me to say that, and when you're all over the place, it's very hard to live step by step, Mesuderdik. So I said to him, look, I'll deal with it when it comes. And unfortunately, I had an appointment to the doctor, and I was going with my bike on Utica Avenue, and I stopped by a light. I was standing there with my bike. I wasn't on my bike, but I was on the street where there's parking. There was a white lane over there parking, just crossing Utica from one side to the other by Avenue K or something. In any case, a car swerved because it was a small street, and then here becomes green, and there, whatever it is, he swerved and he hit me, and he broke my pelvis. And
when was this?
About 8 years ago.
Wow.
And I was in the hospital. I ended up 7 months in bed in this room over here in the hospital bed. And since then was my struggle to get back into. I never got back really into the system, but I have exercise equipment, and I have a trainer who comes, and he keeps me going by exercising and working on my bones and my health and my
all from that
balance. All from that. It was three operations.
Wow.
And every time I went in before the operation, the doctor says to me, "Say goodbye to your wife. Most people don't make it." And I turned around. I said, "Eibishter, you want me here? You want me there? Wherever you want me, I'm good as long as I'm with you." So that's the attitude I had, and I never gave up. And sometimes from setbacks come out good things. I was able, and it's another talk, but I don't mind to speak about it.
I want to get back first. You mentioned two interesting things. You mentioned first of all that your grandmother came from one of the offshoots of Lubavitch.
Correct.
And
So
then-
so let me finish.
Yeah, exactly.
He went. So she was an aptaker. So they were not totally frum and oblivious to society. They were already in those days fortgeschrittene. She was a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Must have been something. On the other hand, she didn't want to marry a Zionist or a Freie guy.
Right.
So there was no Bachram for them. So
Right.
when they were younger, they couldn't find the right match. Like today, there's a lot of issues with Shidduchim.
Right.
So by the time she got married, she was already in her 30s, and all her sisters, actually.
No, my shaila is more why your Zayda was maskim.
So her father came to Lubavitch looking for a frum Chassidischer Bacher.
Huh.
And it was I think Greinem was the one who introduced him to this Mechutin, and he said, if you say he's a Chassidischer Bacher, my grandfather was 21. And he learned 7 years in Lubavitch, my grandfather.
So since he was a bar mitzvah bacher, basically.
Since he was 15 and a half, 15, he was 7 years in Lubavitch, and he wrote me a letter when I was in Brno. I learned by Nissen for when I was 14, 15. He wrote me a letter that I was 7 years in Lubavitch, and Merevi Gia Vaveda, I got sick, and I went home for Pesach that year. I was 21 years old. This is what he writes to me. So later, he said when every shwager of his got married to one of her sisters, my grandmother's sisters, gehalten as eine Bande Schleck, they were all old, incapable poetess, so to speak.
Right.
The Rebbe Rashab told his shwager, Zestoch Peretz hat genommen und gemacht einen guten Schiddach. He talked in another bacher to marry one of her father's sisters.
Uh-huh.
And eventually all these people came back to the Rebbe Rashab because there was no continuation.
No, it's just interesting to me that you would think that divide of, you said it wasn't couples, but that whole divide, it was a very painful...
It could have been geographical.
But it was a painful parsha at the time.
Yeah,
right?
There was
a painful parsha. Right.
Who knows what was going on there? I heard things, but I don't know.
Right. I'm just saying. That there was machlekes there, and it's interesting that people at the end of the day they got over it.
I think it was geographical.
What's the pshat?
If you lived in Retzitza, you became automatically
I understand.
after the Retzitza.
But
if you
would
lived
think,
in Nezhin, you went after the Nezhin there.
No, but you would think, or I would think that Lubavitcher Bacher hears that there's this guy from the Retzitza branch who comes to Tenchatumim. I don't want anything to do with them. They're a bunch of Weisvarfs or whatever, and clearly that's not how people thought.
The Chassidim were Ehrliche Yidden. They were learning Likutei Torah. We learned Likutei Torah till today.
We learn the same things.
I sat a couple of weeks ago in the shul, and a guy comes over to me and he says, I got to tell you, it was last week in Miami Beach, Florida.
You were in Miami Beach?
No, the guy tells me he was, and my son lives there, Shleimeh.
Right.
And I saw him the same exact position like you, sitting by Likutei Torah and learning. And what could be a bit better than settle that your son, who lives in Florida, Likutei Torah. So we live by our Bible, by our Torah Shabbat, Pnimis HaTorah, Torah Shabbat, Chassidus is Likutei Torah and Tanya.
The Chassidus Parsha, yeah.
Yeah, the Alter Rebbe actually gave out more Chassidus than all the other Rebbeim, probably besides the Rebbe. But
is that right?
Yeah. If you look at the amount of Chassidus that's available, the Alter Rebbe's is more than everyone.
Huh. This week's episode is brought to you by This World is a Garden, a new film and concert production by Yuvla Media. Based on the Rebbe's first talk, Bosi Lgani, the production tells the story of the Chabad vision lasting over 300 years, to see this world as God sees it, as His garden. Combining beautiful cinematography with a live performance of a string quartet, This World is a Garden is a meditation on hope and holding on to a vision as time passes by. This production is now available to be shown at your Chabad house and community. Share the message and vision of Bosi Lgani with your community in a way you never have before. For more information, please visit thisworldisagarden.com. So, and then you said something else before that about, so you had a shaila, or you were answering a shaila. What happened to the whole Schneerson lineage?
I thought a lot about it.
Right.
That's, I'm not a historian or
Right.
I can't come to any conclusions, but I just wanted to remark that it wasn't just the Nazis that destroyed Klal Yisrael. It was the communism and the poverty and the struggles of sicknesses and wars and years of, I was in Nezhin. I was on the kever of Mendel Chaim, Havai Kim Domi, and he died because there was a pogrom,
Right.
and the local galach said to him, "You can come into my church and I'll protect you," and he didn't go in, and they killed him. And
this was before the war.
Yeah, this. He was young. He was like 35.
I'm saying this was before the World War II. This is
whatever it was. There was the big kinus from the Rabbanim that the Rebbe Rashab went there, and he went with Mendel Chaim.
And that's where he was killed.
No,
and a bit later.
He's killed around Nezhin because Zain Kever is in Nezhin.
It's
the Mittler Rebbe's Tzion is there.
Right.
So I go every year to Uman for the last dozens of years.
To Uman?
Uman, yeah. I'm the chazan there for Chabad.
Oh, really?
I made a Chabad minyan. And there were years we had like 500 people there.
What brought you to Uman?
I have a friend, Benjamin Niemann, Dr. Niemann.
Okay.
So he's a volunteer doctor that comes there for the week or two,
right,
to be there in the medical center.
In case of emergency, yeah.
So he started a shtickle minyan with 10 people, 15 people. And then he called me because I can daven well, Baruch Hashem, and I can chazer chassidus and do mivtzoim. And on the average year, put on over 1,000 kids film.
Really?
Yeah, and we went there a Shabbos before. We went to a place, Vinica. We used to go to a hotel, and he used to pay for it, and I used to pay money, and we used to make a Shabbaton and teach the people how to keep Shabbos, how to make Kiddush on hands.
What are these people? They're people that don't know how to keep Shabbos to come to
there's a lot of Mekuravim in Russia, Ukraine, that the local shliach brings them to a resort, and we make a Shabbaton.
Oh, you're not talking about the people that come in for Rosh Hashanah?
No, I'm saying that's before that, before Rosh Hashanah.
With the locals.
Between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we went around to all the shtetl shechting kaparas.
You're a sheikhet?
For that purpose, I became a sheikhet. I'm not a sheikhet by trade, but I learned. He actually taught me shchita, and I learned
the doctor.
Yeah, he's a sheikhet. And we shechted. He was standing over with Agabov, and I learned the halachas, and I for years already going around shechting hundreds and hundreds of kaparas in a lot of shtetlach, and then Yom Kippur, I used to daven in the place Chernovitz, where the Ruzner is near Sadigura. And
you don't stay by Uman for Yom Kippur?
No, Yom Kippur I daven in Chernovitz.
Not Uman?
Not Uman, because there's only 2 days Rosh Hashanah there.
Nobody stays for Yom Kippur?
Nobody stays. Maybe some, but the real
Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah is like 60,000 people. This is a lot of people.
What's a pshat to Lubavitchers being over there? What's a vart?
Where was Lubavitch invited?
No.
What's the pshat Lubavitch in Timbuktu and Indiana? And
no, I understand.
Who asked him to come there?
No.
So what's your question?
I'm talking about. You said there's 500 people at the Lubavitch minyan.
First of all,
what are they finding there? Is my question.
First of all, I told you I had a couple of stands there of tefillin.
Right.
We put on the average over 1,000 kids tefillin.
That's beautiful.
And my main tafkid was. My main shlichus there, as you call me, I'm not a shliach, I'm just a chassid, but
I didn't say that.
Okay. So my main shlichus was going there, and a lot of kids after a summer,
right.
And some of them say it's over with me. They give up. So you're supposed to tell them, whatever, regardless what happened, go back to yeshiva. Don't give up on yourself. And I believe hundreds of kids went back to yeshiva from meetings like that. I used to sit with 6 kids, learn one mimer, another 6 kids, another mimer, busy 24 hours learning and connecting and talking
Wow.
and showing them some love and warmth, and it's nothing to do with Lubavitch. It has to do with the Eibishter Torah mitzvahs. Go back to which Rebbe you have, which yeshiva you are from, and serve Hashem.
Right.
So this
I mean, that's how it used to be back in Russia, wasn't it? I mean, like, Lubavitchers were not... Most Lubavitchers didn't live in Lubavitch, obviously. Most Lubavitchers didn't even live in Lubavitch communities. Lubavitchers lived scattered around other people, right?
I feel very much over there a chelik of Klal Yisrael, and I like that.
You like it.
Because I don't like that Chabad and everybody else, or that certain stigma that they even throw on you.
Is that
we're the Pelish Chassidim,
Right.
we're the Misnagdim,
Right.
and you're just an outcast living in Crown Heights.
Right.
It's a very geological, today a lot more integrated because of the Chabad houses, because of the kashrus, the food, because of the
Right.
the hotels, because of there's a lot more Lubavitchers living in Monsey and
mixed,
the
yeah.
whole world. It took them a long time to integrate us
Did it bother
because we
you?
look different.
Did it bother you back in the Mems and the Lamids also, when you lived here? When you were like, when Lubavitch in Crown Heights was what it was back then? Did it bother you that it was segregated at the time also?
It wasn't something that bothered me. Was I aware of it? Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up when Crown Heights was still white,
Right.
and my neighbors were Ungarisch.
When did you come to Crown Heights?
Like I came 58, 50, like 57.
So your father moved
I
from
was born in
Montreal.
Montreal,
Right. Okay.
and when I was 2 years old, I came here. So I actually lived on Sterling Street when I was like. First, I lived at St. Mark's Avenue on the other side of Eastern Parkway for a couple of years, and then we went to Sterling Street and then Empire Boulevard.
So you remember Crown Heights when it was more
white.
integrated?
White.
No, but
when the Rebbe used to walk down to the Tashlich, it was all Yidden white people.
But you're not talking
on
so
the
much about
avenue.
white. You're talking about the other
The
Yidden
Parkway.
also. You were talking in reference
Everybody.
to other Kehillas or
Other
other
Kehillas.
Shtiblach, Rebbe
There-
Lach.
We davened when we lived on St. Mark's Avenue. We davened in Bobiv.
You didn't come to 770 every day.
No, we davened in Bobiv. It was a little too far. 770. My father slept me as a kid. We davened Mincha Ma'ariv in Bobiv. Actually, from there, I'm.
Where's St. Mark's? I don't know where it is.
There's
The Fort Atlantic?
There's St. John's Avenue,
Right.
and behind the 2 streets is St. Mark's.
So for a kid, it was too far to walk. Yeah.
Too far to walk, and we used to daven Ma'ariv in Mincha Ma'ariv Kabbalah Shabbos in Bobiv.
Bobiv.
And later, when we lived on Empire Boulevard, my father used to go to Skulen a lot, to the Skulen Rebbe. So my father, he had friends, also Satmar Chassidim,
Right.
in business, Arahin. So we did have a little taste of other people also.
So what happened? What happened? Why did Lubavitch get so segregated? Is it just the geography? Everybody left and Lubavitch stayed? Is it the whole
First
the
of all,
Mashiach
geography,
thing?
then our looks. We look different than everybody else.
Right.
Then I would tend to say that Satmar fought the whole world, not just Lubavitch.
That's
They fought
for sure.
Klosenberg and they fought everybody. I don't know all the Machlekesen, but I think we weren't the only ones they were fighting with.
No, of course not. No.
So what happened was that it took them a long time to see that they're not going to get anywhere with that type of behavior. I think the young generation didn't buy it.
The young Satmar generation.
Young generation didn't buy it, and everything is more like when they made the kashrus. You know, the Rebbe once said that somebody asked the Rebbe, "Why are you guys making shluchim and they are making the kashrus?" So the Rebbe said, "Sollen sie machen die Beichelach mil, machen die Keppelach." That's what the Rebbe said. So it was. If they didn't do what they did, we would have to be in the kashrus. Actually, today we have enough of businessmen and kashrus and everything. Actually, I was in the food business myself.
Back in the day.
Back
in the pizza store or before?
Before that, I was in wholesale. I sold truckloads of tuna, mayonnaise, sauce. I did in my life a lot of things. This was one of the things I did, food business.
All right.
I asked the Rebbe a bracha for the food business, and the Rebbe said to me, Soll sein bedarkenem bedarkesholem. There shouldn't be any machlekes. Comes to a hechsher, the hechsher from Crown Heights. And the reason I did it was I told the Rebbe because the hechsher asked me to do it because they wanted a hechsher with the Lubavitcher hechsher because they didn't want other hechsherim because the Kesach Nishvalozn. I was saying before, it seems to me I can't accuse them that Satmar when they made a hechsher for the eigener they had their own standards and everybody else. They're goyim, so you can tell them it's kosher, and you can give them grace. You can't rely on that. That was my feeling.
You're saying that was the side of the lack of trust.
For lack of trust, it wasn't just because they cut off an opinion's beard. It was their shita as by the eved is als mutter on yenem can get malz.
Interesting.
So that's my feeling. I'm not. I'm not a you can't zog, but this is what
It's okay. There's the disclaimer on the podcast that nobody can follow us on anything.
Right. Okay,
We're just talking.
Okay.
We're just talking.
It's conversation, exactly.
We're just talking. So you were saying earlier that you wanted to go on shlichus. Can you describe a little bit what it was like to grow up as a bacher? You must have been the Lamids.
It was exciting.
Which years would you say were your bacher sheyar? The Chafs, Lamids.
Chof.
No, you're too young.
Why am I too
young? I'm saying you're too.
Chof.
When did you?
Chof ches, chof tes, chof zayin, chof ches, chof tes, lamed.
That you remember?
I don't know what I remember.
What was your bar mitzvah? What was your bar mitzvah?
Chof tes.
Chof tes. Okay, so you were a bacher, the late Chafs, early Lamids.
Yeah.
So what was it like back then? What was it? What was
the Beatles were great.
What's that?
The Beatles were great.
You knew about the Beatles back then?
Yeah.
Really?
It was the ruach that swept the country, Woodstock, and I don't know exactly.
You know about it, but did you listen to the music? People, Bachrim would hear the music.
Whoever had a taiva and was musical. I mean, I grew up. To talk candidly, my mother had a radio in the house.
Okay.
She listened to opera.
Okay.
There was a chassid, Rabbi Yossel Mochkin.
I've heard the name.
Rebbe Yossel Mochkin's son.
Okay.
And he got married to Rebbe Yossel Mochkin's daughter.
Okay.
But it was a shidduch between the parents. So it's a massing given. So after a year, they got divorced. He never married again. And he was a chassid. He made a get to his father. His father lived till he was 99 years old. He was kibbutz dav, and then he lived in Brunois. And I remember him when I was a bocher. I came. He was a teacher there, and he took care of a mikveh. He was a humble, unassuming man, Rabbi Yosef. And I'll soon tell you something about him. I'll tell you now. So he once walked into my mother's house and heard the radio, whatever she heard, classical music, and he says to my mother. Es kann sein, wenn ich wollte gehabt, als Zatzke, wollte ich geraten with the marriage. That's, and who was on Yosef? He didn't come much to the Rebbe. And they were talking on him, and he was busy with his father, taking care of him. Right. Whatever, I don't know.
Who was talking? Who was talking? The Bachrim?
The Bachrim, yeah, we're talking about his back. Anita Zamakusher. He's saying, as a chosid, the Anita Zamakusher to the Rebbe. He once came to the Rebbe on yechidus. And the Rebbe, one of the things the Rebbe asked him, "Vecher hemshech lernt er?" So he said to the Rebbe, "Was macht sich?" Like he was so humble and unassuming that ich lerne hemshech. Like, was macht sich? Whatever Sefer HaMamonim is there, I learned. Whatever I have access to, whatever. It's not like today you have a Bais Malos Marim. And when he went out of yechidus, the Rebbe said to label as the ganze Jorn. Was he given yechidus bisister, hat sich gelehnt nur zu lieb dem yechidus. That's how much nachas he gave the Rebbe.
The Rebbe said that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
wow.
The simplicity, and he was a year younger than the Rebbe.
Can you say that line again? All the years of yechidus was
Alle Jorn, kann sein, dass alle Jorn von yechidus bisister, hat sich gelehnt nur zu lieb dem yechidus.
Wow.
As hat nachas the Rebbe gehabt von him.
Wow.
And he was only a year younger than the Rebbe.
The Rebbe liked simplicity. Right?
Sincerity. Also, Emes was the ganze Pulle from Chabad as besucht Horle Emes. That's what my grandfather verbringt. Always.
Your grandfather Peretz.
Peretz, a hodele, a shaykhus to the memes.
Right.
The Rebbe is emes, chassidus lernen wie zu sein emes. Simplicity on blitis, wie sagt, on the trappings and the show off, or.
And you say he was a simple Jew. That's how he lived.
When I knew him, he was a broken Jew. On the one hand, his wife was blind; he was old.
A survivor of communism,
physical health issues,
and communism.
And no, I don't think that. I think he fell from power. He was in Russia when the Rebbe left, the Frierdiker Rebbe left. Here, Nissen, they were the leaders. They were the pioneers. They were the educators. They were the Baal HaMesiras Nefesh.
Right.
And they when they
ran the show.
Needed money for Temchat Mimim, they came to our house and they said, "You're going to give so much money,
right? And
you're going to give so much money." And they evaluated. People listened to them to the T.
Right.
So I think he was in the height of power. And when he came here, it was just a nobody in a sense. The Rebbe tried to waken him up. The Rebbe tried to encourage him to be a mishpia, and he actually wrote a letter to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe told him that this is Anova Shalevim Kemel. Like, who am I? What am I? And that's what the Rebbe wrote to him. That this is Aniva Shalevim Kemel. You have to step up to the plate and start being mashpia and be an inspiration for others.
So he had a hard time adjusting to
all of them. They were,
right.
I one of the things I recognized in my life, I really don't need any inspiration. I feel my tafkid is to inspire others. I have a fire in me. I have a fire burning in me. And
where do you think that comes from?
From the emes.
Okay.
And from knowing that I'm here for a purpose. And maybe it's coming from
I'm saying, is it something that you feel that you always had since you were a child? Is it something that you feel a memory of the Rebbe that you have? Is it your grandfather? Where would you trace it?
There's a Lubavitcher here, a teacher in Lubavitch Yeshiva, who's a Baal Tshuva, and he became a Baal Tshuva from. I met him on Friday before Shabbos on Kingston Avenue, and he came to look in the Jewish neighborhood, and I schlepped him to my father's house for Shabbos. Him and a friend, and make a long story short, he became a Lubavitcher. He became a Kurev. So
Menachem Schmidt's also one of your
that
parents,
I also met him on the street. Yeah.
See, I live in Philadelphia. I know Menachem very well.
Yeah. So Menachem.
You schlepped him in.
I had a shaykhus to this. Yeah. He waited. When he got married, he waited in the wedding for me. I didn't know it was so important, but I meant something to them at the time. So this guy sees me like 4 or 5 years ago. We went to Alucha together, and he says to me, "You know why I'm in Lubavitch?" I says, "I don't know. You saw my grandfather, my father. I don't know. I was just a wilder bacher."
Right.
He says, "No, Zakter. I'm here because of you." So what's because of me? Zakter, you had a fire in you, and my friends in college didn't have a fire in them.
Huh.
This is what he said to me.
And did you know that at the time? You felt that you were on fire?
Did I know I was always on fire? In other words, maybe too much on fire. I took things serious, and it wasn't. Nobody cared about it.
Like what? Give me an example.
There's so many examples.
Yeah, we'll start with one. You could go on.
No, when the Rebbe used to sit in shul and there used to be noise, I used to scream and shout. Es muss sein still. I had a big voice. Es muss sein still.
When there was talking by Fabringen.
No, when the Rebbe was sitting there, Yontef or Shabbos.
By davening.
Yeah.
People were talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Es muss sein still. The Rebbe was, I remind myself of a nice story. I'm a Lubavitcher. I grew up here. So when the Rebbe, after the stroke, the first year, they made over there in the Weiber Shul, they added a little extension, and the Rebbe was there.
The balcony.
On the balcony, before the curtain that they opened. Before that, there was still the windows, behind the windows. We couldn't see, but we knew that the Rebbe was there. That it was Yom Kippur, first time. And all of a sudden, Zalman Garari, who sat in the front, is sitting in the back. I had a seat in the last bench,
So you were always in the back your whole life, is what you're
No,
saying?
when I was a kid, I was.
Right.
But when I got married already,
Right.
I got a seat in the back. In the last affirmation, I sat next to me, but it was in the back, the last seat.
Right.
All of a sudden, I'm in the front because the Rebbe is right here.
Right.
So, but you couldn't hear the chazan.
Right.
So
the chazan stayed in the front.
In the front. So came Motzei Yom Kippur. I don't know why it came over me. I said, I gotta say Vorachim loud. I was really upset that can't hear the chazan because these chazanim were not adequate enough, and I started screaming, "Vorachim mechaberom!" Strong. 3 days later, Moshe Klein is looking for me. He says to me, "I'm looking for you for 3 days already." He's like, "I want to tell you something. The whole time we brought out the Rebbe Yom Kippur, he didn't daven. He was just sitting and staring. The moment you said Vorachim, the Rebbe asked for a siddur, and you can't imagine the chayas you made to the Rebbe."
Wow. Wow.
This is one of the epitomes of my life. Could be a whole life I lived just for this. So after that, I went over to Zevel Akatz, and I says, "Put the chazan in the back." He says to me, he doesn't know. I says, "I didn't ask you. I said to you, put the chazan in the back, and if you don't, I'll go. I'm not asking you."
Right.
So you put the when you put yourself out there and you say, "I'm going to go because Mogim Sheinish, I'm going to go." So I was looking to be chazan, but
right.
I know I have to put my money where my mouth is.
Right.
The Rebbe is here, put the chazan here. So that's another story.
You're saying after Yom Kippur.
Yeah. Once I heard the story from Moshe Klein.
Right.
So there were times that our path crossed.
Yeah, so you were a passionate guy.
I still am.
Right. I'm saying you always were. But you said also you were a wilde bacher. How did that work? Because one of the things that always comes up is that there's the individual and there's the system. Or you call it whatever you want. You call it the yeshiva, call it the community, and when an individual is more expressive, let's say, it can come into clash, no? So what was it like for you to be this kind of bacher full of energy? Did you fit into the program? Was it hard to fit in?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't fit in, and I was very discouraged.
Okay.
My Rosh Hashiva told me, "Was it sein von dir gar nicht wachsen?" I'm trying to explain to you that there, in our world that we live in, we went through a big shift and a change. What is the shift and change, and what it was before? Before, who was the in thing? A couple of other nerds that I thought they were nuts. Half of the stuff you learn, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense.
Wait, you thought they were nuts? Why? Because they were taking it to. They were
stupid. They were idiots. They were maybe book smart or very one track minded, and they were very übergegeben. Right. And they started verbringen and concentrated, and they were able to chazer über a couple sichas. But wherever I said, du verstehst nicht die Kavanah jene, nur ich verstehe. Like that's what they meant. That's what they made you feel. That, ich verstehe die Kavanah jene. Aber du, was verstehst du? Du hast gesagt ein paar Wörter, gehabt ein paar Wörter rein. And therefore they made you feel like it made me feel like and I wasn't. Look, I was a stiffer. I love fast cars, and I love the stiff.
You like the American life?
America, yeah. I was exploring.
Right.
I was growing up.
Right.
I didn't know anything. When we grew up, we didn't have a tape recorder in the house. We didn't have a record player. We didn't have nothing.
You had the radio.
My mother had a radio.
Oh, you didn't listen to it?
No.
It's for your mother.
Yeah, she had classical music. When she put it on, I don't know how much she listened to it.
Right.
But there was nothing in the house. Right. Nothing.
So
no Gashmis, no Ruchnis.
So you were looking outside.
So no, I was growing up. All of a sudden, there's Walkmans. All of a sudden, there's the Beatles. All of a sudden, there's cars with air conditioners. All of a sudden, there's a fax machine. We grew up in the most exciting time in history that I can say before and after, there was no such exciting time to grow up. We also grew up exciting, not only begashmis, beruchnis. Lubavitch was nothing, and it was growing. There was a certain excitement in the air.
No question.
By being mekarev and make the first pekishas was in my father's house.
Yeah.
Like 2, 3, 4 years. There, in our house,
No, it's a very exciting time.
Pekishas was a very exciting time. Look, we're mekarev another yid and another yid, and then that's even before Mitzvah film.
Right.
Just by the students coming in, and just by a 30, 40. There was when my grandparents and parents were in Paris. Going back to that, the Rebbe wrote letters. I saw these letters. Go wherever you want. They wanted to come to America to the Rebbe. The Rebbe wrote, "Go wherever you want." Abikum nishtahar. Go to the Rebbe spelled it out. Go to Australia. Go to
the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe.
Both. I saw a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe too, to my grandfather. Go to Australia. Go to
Don't
New
come
Zealand,
to America.
Go to stay in France.
They explained why. The Rebbe said what?
Abikum nishtahar.
Favos.
Mir genug mit Aminyan. That's what the Rebbe said.
But the Rebbe allowed other people to come.
So that's one of the reasons my grandparents came to Canada, to Montreal. It was not in America.
But I'm saying the Rebbe did let some people come to America.
Most people, the Rebbe said, go wherever you want, don't come here. Go in Sakedesh, go wherever you want, don't come here. The Rebbe tamol gesagt, mir genug mit Aminyan.
Right.
In other words, the Rebbe had a vision, and the Chassidim weren't yet digesting it, that I'm going to build up the whole world.
Right.
And the Chassidim didn't see it. They figured, mit kommen zu brachen, kommen da, mit machen a yeshiva, mit machen a shul. So
you felt a little bit constrained by the yeshiva when you were growing up. You felt you wanted to explode, or you wanted to move.
It was very boring.
Claustrophobic.
Right. It was very limited by nature.
Right.
And
especially if you're full of energy. If you're full of energy,
and those days, the teachers, most of the teachers, who was my teacher? I was 8 years in the highest class in Altair. In other words, there wasn't a higher class than us.
Well, Altair was just beginning there then.
Right.
It was a small little cheder.
Before us, 2 classes.
Michal's little cheder, yeah.
Yeah. And then every year they added a teacher. But not one teacher. Every year we had 6 teachers, because one flunky and another flunky and one loser and another. They couldn't find a job. B'chol shleptem, b'yem lamed.
So you're from the Erste Alternics, is what you're saying?
Yeah. For 8 years I was the highest class. And I left Altair when I was about 13, 14.
So let me ask you a question. So it makes a lot of sense to me. You're a young boy, a bacher, full of a lot of energy, personality wise. You're full of a lot of energy, and for a boy like that to be in a school, especially if the school's chaotic, is a disaster. It's a total disaster. Did you? And you already expressed that you had some resentment towards the teachers and the Maggid Shur and the Rosh Hashivas. Did that extend towards the Rebbe, or did you ever say, this whole Lubavitch thing is pissing me off, I want out?
No, not at all.
Why not? I mean,
because there's one thing what you're taught. It's like the Torah. The Torah teaches you stuff, and you say, "Hey, this guy, look what he's like." All the friars say that.
Right.
Look what this guy is. He's supposed to be better.
Right.
The fact that he's not behaving better, and he thinks he represents the Torah. Well, guess what? It's not like that.
Right.
The yechidus is pure and holy. Torah mitzvahs is pure and holy. The people teaching it to you are they're supposed to be, but they're not.
But how are you matzliach to make that distinction? Because it's very hard for when you are so hurt or scarred by the system, let's say. And I hate the word system.
I'm so hurt or scarred.
No,
I said I'm aware of it.
No, you said that it lingered with you. The words that they told you that you're never gonna.
There are difficulties in life.
Right. But when you're a young man, right?
Nobody else wanted me either. You think the Satmars wanted me? The Misnagdim wanted me? You think the Goyim wanted me? Nobody wanted me.
So who wanted you?
Who wanted me? The only one who ever wanted me is my wife. She came around. She was my sister's friend, and she came into the house, and she looked at me. She fell in love with me. And my father said to me, Yossel, so the Ein Bedel was Willer, grab it. And I did. It's funny, but Yeah. At the end of the day,
Did you ever ask the Rebbe about this?
yeah.
Okay, so let's hear about that. What was that about?
So
No, because
here-
there are a lot of
here-
people
here-
today. There are a lot of people today who, and I think it makes sense that they get upset for whatever reason at the yeshiva, and then they get upset at the whole thing. You split it. What did you ask the Rebbe about this?
So it was. My brother was 13 years old. Those years, he still went into yechidus with the whole family.
With your parents
With my parents and the whole family went in
for bar mitzvah.
for bar mitzvah.
So the whole family would go into bar mitzvah bacher, and the sisters also.
Yeah, everybody.
Okay.
And I had an episode that happened to me. My mashpia in Montreal. Actually, I was called a shliach. Bochim went to Montreal. We went. I was like 18, 19 years old.
Right.
We went on shlichus. So we were the Bochim there in Yeshiva. So Ichimei Agrari comes to me. It was before Pesach. Says to me, "Don't come back after Yontif because somebody told me you're going to the movies, and if we find out that it's true, we're going to throw you out. So better now you could go without being thrown out." And I was devastated. That's a death sentence to me because once I'm not in yeshiva, nobody will take me, and I go out to work, and I always frumkaitus. So I wrote a letter to the Rebbe. It was 3 pages long, and I was going to condense it.
You were upset that he wasn't.
I was crying, and I was.
You were upset for yourself. You weren't upset about him.
No, for myself.
Right.
And what is this?
Right.
What kind of? I wasn't just for myself. What is this? So I wrote to the Rebbe. First of all, I didn't go, but even if I did, is that?
You didn't go.
No. So I said, and even if I went, is that reason to throw me out?
Because I went to a movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I was going to condense the letter. And I wrote it with all my emotions and with all details. I was going to condense it. Then I said, no, this is too good. The Rebbe has to know. You have to tell the Rebbe the truth. And you have to tell the Rebbe your milas, your chasrenes. And I wrote along, and I gave the Rebbe, I took the letter in with me on that yechidus to give him the letter.
Was this the most personal you had ever been with the Rebbe up to this point?
Yeah, I think it was the only time in such a content.
Mm-hmm.
So after the yechidus, and the Rebbe spoke to my father in Russian, so we shouldn't understand. My father and mother spoke Russian. We didn't speak Russian.
Right.
And then my father says to me, "No, like you have a letter, give it to the Rebbe." So I made to my father, "No, like go out." So my father and the whole family went out, and I remained there.
Huh.
And I give the Rebbe the letter.
Your father had any idea what you were writing about?
No.
He just understood that you had something private to talk about.
Yeah. I'm telling you what happened.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand.
So I gave the Rebbe my letter, and the Rebbe takes it out, and he read it with the glasses, without the glasses. He marked it. He took it so serious.
Read the whole letter in front of you.
In front of me, and it not just read it with the glasses, without the glasses.
A few minutes.
Took a pencil. He was marking it.
A few minutes.
I was then 20 minutes, and I hid this
No,
myself.
but just reading the letter.
Yeah. It didn't just go like that.
Right.
No. This was okay. And then the Rebbe says to me like this: "Shaz the Rebbe the Shvers Vater miyasik ben Tim Chitmimim, und das miyasik ben Chatchile soll sein 2 Mashpim oder mehr. Also da 2 Mashpim oder mehr, bald sie fragen kam der in Bochim, ist das sie fragen 2 Mashpim, befragt es da mehr, ich fragen in einem von sie, a zart mal was mir kennen sich mit dem zusammenreden. So sie sind zusammenreden sich mit einem von sie. Der Rebeste soll dir helfen, zutreffen zum Richtigen und sollst nicht springen von einem zum zweiten. Leg weg dein Sechel auf der Seite. Vergess auf den Over. Als wie du lernst nach chassidische Yeshiva, a Chassid tut mit Kabbalah Sol. Du schreibst, du sagst, du lernst, das, and my good side, my bad side. Dein Ingen ist ton. Und da du wirst ton, wird bei Meila ankommen gute Gerissen. So sitzen in Hore, wenn sie lernen. Your gaito motzosa timing. Amor Yegia Benigla Teir on yechidus. The Rebbe repeated it 3 times. Amor. So sits in the heart of an letter. Und na du bestaan wird bemela onkommen gut zu Christen. That was the yechidus
Can you
that
say-
I can
can you
say
say-
in public.
Can you say in English what
Yeah.
what that means?
When the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe the Shver's father, the Rebbe the Shver's father,
Right, the Fidikrab's father.
created Temchet Mimim, that's the Rebbe Rashab,
Right.
he created it, to begin with, there should be 2 mashpiyim, 2 mentors.
Right.
As there's many bochrim, many chemistries, in my opinion. There's many different
Personalities.
So if there's more than one personality as a mashpia, you could find in one of them a tzad ma, a certain angle that you could have a meeting of the minds.
Right.
Befrat, when there's more than 2 mashpiyim,
Right.
you should find a mashpia. The Eibishter should help you. You need a brachet should help you to find the right one. But once you give yourself over, carry through with it. Shouldn't jump from one to the other.
Very interesting.
Then the Rebbe said to me like this: put your seichel on the side. That means I have seichel, I'm smart, but don't use your seichel. Forget about the past. That is, I remember when I stood there, the Rebbe wiped out my past. And I'll tell you soon what it means to a bacher. I'll also tell you.
But
I can
which
tell you
past?
now.
Yeah, tell me now.
A bacher has a very short fuse, by nature.
Right.
A younger man has a very long fuse. Why? When you get married, im osa v'itzliach takes a lifetime. You got to get married. You need shalom bayis. You need to make parnasa. You need to have children until they don't run out off their dust, and until you marry them off, until they're stabilized. That could take over Shana 50 years.
Right.
So by nature, to build a business and to build a family and to
Right.
you can't get excited like you say you have a fire. You can't get excited. You learn to
Right.
hold back from all the setbacks and difficulties. A bacher, if he's good, he thinks there's nobody better than me. I know it all.
Right.
You know, usually I know it already. Yeah, every time you learn this, I'll tell you something interesting to veer off for just a moment. I was sitting three weeks ago in the country with David Feldman. And I told him a word I learned in the Maimer. And he says to me, which Maimer did you see this word? And I'm thinking to myself, he's a Chazer, he wrote the Rebbe Sichos and Maimorim.
Right.
And he's asking me, which Maimer did I see it from the Rebbe? So I said to him, last week I learned one Maimer every single day, the same Maimer 5 times. I decided that this week I'm going to learn the same Maimer. It's a Maimer that grabbed me. And I learned it 5 times every day. I learn other Maimorim, but I have mandatory that every day I have to learn a Maimer from the Rebbe. That's because I'm the Rebbe's chassid. I learn other Maimorim from other Rabbeim, but that's, to me, mandatory. So I learned the Maimer from the Rebbe 5 times, and on the 5th time I saw this word.
Mm-hmm.
He says to me, I got it. Sometimes you say a good word. Oh, where did you see it? Which Maimer? What do you mean, where did I see it? I saw it after learning it 5 times, losing heard of it. That's when I saw the word.
Right.
There's deeper and deeper and more depth and more depth.
Do you want to share the part now, or
So no.
you don't want?
I have to remind myself. I
Okay.
have a lot of Werte to say, but
Okay.
so it was a Maimer in Tzim and Mishpat Tepoda, and we'll soon get to it.
Okay.
And that I think is so. So when the Rebbe said to me,
So 1 second, you were getting back to that. A bacher has a short fuse and a younger man has a long fuse.
right? It's called in Tanya. It's called Derech Haruch Tzara.
Okay.
A Derech Haruch Tzara is not just in the Alter Rebbe teaches you in you're learning today has an ashpah on you today, and then there's the long run. You're learning it has a roundabout effect on you in the long run. Derech Haruch Tzara is in business too. That's the short fuse and the long fuse. Derech Haruch Tzara is in business, the same thing.
Right.
You build a business. Sometimes when I went into business on my own, the first 3 months I made $130,000. Then it took me another year to make another $130,000.
Right.
It takes time to build up. I was lucky the first 3 months. It gave me a cushion, a very good
Right.
startup. But so there's derech haruch tzara in everything.
Right.
That's one of the lessons one has to know. A bacher has to know
Right.
that you have to know what's your nature. You have to know what's the big picture. And anyway, so let me finish with the yechidus. So the Rebbe said.
So what you're saying, if I guess all over, you said you forgot the over. What did that mean?
I remember the Rebbe. So that's what I was saying. If I wrote to the Rebbe all my milas and all my chesrenis. So I have a friend. The Rebbe told him, write to me once a month. Me, in effect, the Rebbe said, don't write to me. Don't make any sachakel. Don't make a cheshbenis. Don't build yourself a picture in your head. You just do. You're Kabbalah soul. Your tchunas hanefesh is just go out there and do, regardless of what you feel, regardless of what you understand, because you'll never make sense out of it anyway. In my opinion, it doesn't make sense to me till today. Half the stuff I do doesn't make sense.
So you just go with instinct.
Some things make sense. Some things you see there's pratis
Right.
when you see it.
Right.
But most of the stuff doesn't make sense to me. If you asked me, I wouldn't do the things I do because
Right.
it
What
doesn't come natural to me.
What did it mean to you when the Rebbe took your letter so seriously and spoke to you like that?
1 second, let me finish the.
Okay.
So, I guess I have no. Azevi the last nashiv shachud kabol, and the vestam vet b'meila coming go to Kristen. So that goes all in the line of do your thing.
Action first.
Action first, and you'll be matzliach.
Right.
But then the Rebbe said, "So sitzen harav and lernen," and I realized later that this was the Rebbe's answer on everything. When imetzer sitzen harav and lernen, zetter nicht the losers, zetter nicht the setbacks, because lernen meint alle lernen.
Right.
But when somebody doesn't learn, and they're hard of it in lernen, then he starts to look around and he sees all the chesronos around. The yeshiva is no good, my friend is no good, the yeshiva is no good, that's no good, that's not good. That's the problem for most of the kids. I need the ambience, the atmosphere, this yeshiva is going to Ashdod, and this guy is going to Milwaukee, and this guy is going to Yehupitz. What's the matter with them? Sitzen horove in lernen. Your guide to Mitzvah, the Rebbe said it to me 3 times.
You got to Mitzvah.
That's the answer to everything. If you put in all you got, all your effort, you chazed it again and again, you internalized it again and again, you davened with Aveda again and again, it's going to make something out of you.
Did it change for you? Did it change for you that that suddenly you're able to learn? Did it change your experience in yeshiva after?
There was something else that changed me also once for a couple of weeks. What happened? It's interesting.
No, but I'm saying this particular story.
I'll answer your question with
Okay.
another
With
story.
another story, okay.
I was sitting Thursday night. When younger years, I sit in the hotel on Troy Avenue. It was a while we sat a whole night, and those who learned and those who talked and those who verbringed and those we
Leil
sat.
Shishi.
Leil Shishi, that's what they call it.
Right.
So who was the Huisbacher then? In the dormitory upstairs, there was some rooms, Bachram sleeping there. I slept in the house, but there was Beryl Levin,
The librarian.
librarian. So he comes over to me and says, Wie lernt sich? Wie lernt sich? Will sich lernen, aber es lernt sich nicht, wie es will sich lernen. So, and we're sitting there schmoozing. So he says, no, ich am Ferish Rambam. Keifen esse ja, she immer Ritzani. So, legt sich weg auf den Bank, mit der anschmeißen in Toches und dann sich lernen. And I'm a Bolvan, a strong...
Hot-blooded
yes,
guy.
I said, sure. I lay down, he took out a strap, and everybody's standing around, and there's a show. And, I stood up to the plate, okay? And he beat the crap out of me. I saw stars. I saw my grandmother.
With a belt.
With a belt. My togas was red for 2 weeks.
Right.
Then I felt it. You know what Rebbe Chaim used to say, Rebbe Chaim Redblatt. He says, Favos schmeißt man in toches when a kid doesn't behave. Sagt weil the nefesh eliki is the Platz in Kop.
Right.
Nefesh Abam is the Platz in toches. is als de Nefesh Habam is geht in Kopf,
Put his house on fire.
klappt man bei ihm nur, hat damit geklappt, kommt zu gehen dahin, geht zurück, zu wo darf sein in Toches.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. My
That's what Rebbe L'chaim told me.
my
Father probably also said
my
it.
father heard it from his father, Reb Meir Afton, also. But the way I heard it was that we put the Nefesh Bahamas' house on fire, and he comes to.
Okay, that's it.
It depends how hard
It
you hit.
adds to the fire.
It depends how hard you hit.
Yes.
If it's just knocking on the door of fire.
Nissen said another way. He said, als in zijn ponim kiocher, sagt a mensch was horvet in lernen, there's a crease in the forehead. A toches is glatt.
All right.
Als je ponim kiocher, als je glatt, is als je not learned it. I actually saw in the mimer a week or two, I heard in the mimer from the Rebbe, that when a person horvet in lernen, there becomes chritzim in the meach. And those chritzim, those creases, facilitate more space to understand and learn more. It actually is more storage space for the seichel to acclimate and have a place where it actually physically is.
Interesting. Oh, I think they call it neural highways. And so you were saying before we even started recording the podcast that eventually you wanted to go on shlichus, but it didn't work out that way.
Well, I wrote to the Rebbe. I asked.
All right, and Rebbe said not.
Yeah.
Rebbe said to stay here.
No, he didn't. He didn't answer.
Didn't
when
answer.
I wrote about business, he said, "Continue on."
The business. So
I went to help my father after Keil. I sat in Keil a couple of months, and then whatever. And then my father didn't feel well. I went in just to help him out temporarily, and I started asking for shlichus. And then when it came to ask something in business, he answered me, "Continue in textile."
So you were saying something about it being hard. You were saying that the hard part was that you thought being a Mochkin counted for something, and it didn't count for much at all.
My father was like the KGB. Keep your mouth shut, like. And I wanted to be free. I didn't rebel against Frumkeit and Yiddishkeit.
All right.
But by nature, I was a happy-go-lucky, free person. I didn't like that Russian mentality.
So what do you think the reason for that is, that you didn't rebel against
I knew
this?
the emes.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Torah, mitzvahs, Rebbe, Eibishter. I know there's Eibishter. Deep down in my gut, he created me, he made me, he put me down here for a purpose, and he made me a Lubavitcher for a purpose, and I have to work with what I have. That's all. And it took me many, many years of contemplating and thinking and setbacks and going up and down to realize that the Eibishter gave you your life that's for you. And all the opportunities that you have is for you. And if that's where you have to be, this is what you have to do. And I could point back during my life, b'klal or b'prat, that the fact that I was here, there was crossroads by a lot of people, by a lot of things, that I was there and was very useful in private and personal and public life, that I had to be here.
In Crown Heights.
Yeah, there's no question. How many people I helped with a netzer, with a helping hand, with a loan, with Farbrengens. We had, when your grandfather, the mayor, was here in Crown Heights, on Montgomery and Kingston in the shul, I was Moti Garari and me. We made the shul, and those were, I don't remember how many years, but a good dozen years of full on drinking and Farbrengen, and I think there's dozens of younger light. There's a younger man who came over to me and he says to me, "Yossel, I'm accosted because of you," and I know more than one. So I had to be here. More than one. So even if you make one guy a difference in his life, but if he makes so many lives a difference in their life. So I said a word I went to Dr. Ivry. He's a guy in the Five Towns. He does implants, basically. I'm at this age already. So Dr. Ivry, says to me, the Rebbe said, tut alles, was kennt. Ich hab getan alles, was ich hab gekannt. And I'm saying, the guy's drilling me there, and I can't answer him. And I think he says he prepared the ground after he passes away. Und ich sitze und drillt und that's not ACS I don't react to. So I said to him, I want to tell you something. After I finished, and I tied it up and I was ready to go, I said to him, let me tell you something, Dr. Ivy. What's the difference between Golus mentality and Geula? The difference is that Golus means that a person came down in this world 70, 80 years, like Baal Shem Tov says, to do a favor another Yid. And when he finished his favor or his objective that he comes to this world, he went on back to where he came from, in the better world that he always came from and is going to.
Right.
Comes the Rebbe and says, no, this Golus mentality, this is over. Now, tut alles was kennt means you should be all over the place, like you said, Ami. Be all over the place. Because once you finish one bitter, it's only a stepping stone for a higher bitter. That's Geula.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't finish your Aveda. You're just starting a new Aveda that's like, come Rabbi, some Tanisa should learn the Yerushalmi. That's what the Rebbe explained the difference between Golus and Geula is. That Geula means there's no more Avedas HaBirurim. What does that mean? It means that those Birurim that are, as we know it, Golus, that you have to be somewhere to do a favor, and then you finish your Aveda, is not an excuse anymore. Now we have to live Chaim Nitzchim and Mikbiyetzel Ashikofer Lakeltiya, and it's up to every single one of us to be all over the place, to bring in, usher in Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach Geula. So that's how I look at it. I just want to tell you where I come from. I always, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I don't believe that an Nisayan is, if you're walking down the street and you meet a beautiful woman and you lose yourself, or a girl, whatever, and you fall through, I don't believe, this is an Nisayan, but that's not an Nisayan really. That is, you fell through because you got distracted and you lost yourself.
Right.
A real Nisayan is, if you make a cheshbon nefesh, a seder, how am I going to behave? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go this way and not. You make a bullseye in the wall. I'm going this way. I'm not looking there. I'm not like a horse. They used to tell us. Put shields on your eyes. Guck nicht mit darf nicht, geh nicht mit darf nicht. Es gaat gewoon niet komen eens. Niet komen out of any leile den Nisayan. You don't even bring me to that. But if you're ready by the Nisayan, hey, you're in the rush to us. You're glad idiot. But you have to know. So when I was about 19 years old, I was saying to myself, I can't handle this Pesach aus der Asifim. The Herz gelost und die Zohar will gute Kars, ich will gute Mädelach, ich will gute Rock'n'Roll und was ist ich da, was hab ich da? So I said to myself, what do I do? So I said to myself, give yourself think about it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You give yourself a time limit, and whatever way you decide, go. You want money? You want...
Where were you at this point?
Indulgence life? I was about 19.
Oh, Terra? Benoit, where were you?
I was in New York at the time. I don't remember where I was, how I was, but and maybe even in 770.
The shaila was whether or not to stay in yeshiva, or the shaila was whether or not to stay frum.
Whether to stay frum, whether I believe in Hashem.
So you did have a crisis.
I had that. I made my own crisis, and I did have a crisis.
Okay.
Like what,
right?
Is the tafkid to make money and to walk out of this poverty and out of this constraint, and live it up, and like you say, you have a fire in you. You if you want to live it up fully. You can't be a Pesach Hashtei Asifim. You can't jump on two chasnas. Go to the Farbrengen. In my time...
One second, I want to point out something that you're mentioning here, because I think it's very, very interesting, and you've noted it a few times. You were living at a transition point where your father's very much from the old Russia, right? He's very much from that world. KGB mindset. Everything's very, very, very controlled, and you're looking at a world that's exploding.
Right.
The
And my
rockets,
father wasn't a scholar either.
right? The rockets landing on the moon, and the whole society's
Exciting.
freeing up, and the young people
Powerful.
around you are all becoming hippies, and they're telling their parents to
Yeah.
get kakin,
Yeah.
and the whole world is changing, and like you said, it's one of the most exciting times in history. Whatever his truth was didn't resonate with you,
Not at all.
right?
American way.
Right.
Actually, now I'm as disappointed that those who are supposed to be Americans and honest and we're different than Russia. We're and they're the liars. They're the cheaters. They're the.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the
This is the
politics?
Democrats.
Okay, forget about the
No, but I'm saying that's where I'm disappointed.
right.
That people who are talking to be honest, and they know they're not honest, but the cause justifies the dishonesty. That's a feeling that disappoints me.
You think the Russians
But
were
it tells me when they always said Ilm Haza Sheker, it was always Ilm Haza Sheker.
Yeah.
Those who you thought were right, or those who were thought who were not right, it's all Ilm Haza Sheker.
including the other politicians too?
But I'm saying I struggle with these.
Yeah. So
Issues.
what happens? You made a cheshbon on nefesh about you made a cheshbon of what you're going to do.
And
what
I
happened?
said to myself, whatever you're going to decide, this is how you're going,
Mhm.
one way or the other. And at the end, I smoked a lot of cigarettes then, and I went around for.
Oy vey. Oy vey.
No, I smoked a lot when I was young, and finally I said to myself, I'm buying the whole lock, stock, and barrel. I'm not cutting the cake anywhere.
Why? Why did you decide? Do you remember why?
Because it's all Kabbalah soul. It's not. I believe in this. I don't believe in that. Or I said, I am giving myself away to the Eibishter, to Torah, to mitzvahs, to the Rebbe, to live a frum Torah life, mitzvahs, Shulchan Aruch. Eibishter. I bought the whole lock, stock, and barrel.
Did you speak to the Rebbe about this crisis that you were having?
No.
Did you
That
speak
was-
to anybody?
I meet to decide myself. No, that wasn't a crisis.
Why? You didn't want him to get involved? You weren't sure if you wanted to hear from him? What was the...
I wasn't brought up like that to talk like that to the Rebbe.
No, but you had brought him in on board with the Maise with Montreal.
Yeah, but then I was already a shliach. I was
This was
20
before that
years old.
story.
This I don't recall. It's probably before that story.
Uh-huh.
But the idea and the point of it is that this was my Yetzer Hara, my Seichel, my Nefesh HaBamis that couldn't make sense out of. You say Chitas, you learn Rambam. Most of the stuff I learn, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. It's total Kabbalah soul. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Was mir nicht gehe, Heint Ketanya was dort ein Sifran Asias Natzilus and Asias Bria.
That's not your language.
It what difference does it make to me?
Right.
What and this already half makes sense, but most of the stuff doesn't make. I'm learning Rambam 3 prokim a day. Why am I learning Meiser Sheni at Revoya and Peter Chamer and if the son was a Levi whose grandfather was a Ken, that's what I'm learning. It drives me crazy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't envision it. I can't relate to it. I don't have no patience for it. Half the words is not my language, and I'm not nishtahin. I don't like English. I don't like Hebrew. It's a disaster.
It sounds like an alternative.
It's but yesterday I heard a story that said that if you learn, whatever you learn is precondition when you go up in Shemaim. So if you learned Chumash and Rashi, you could go on to Mesifta from Rashi. If you learned a certain Gemara Brachas, you could learn the Gemara Brachas. So there's a story about somebody who came in that he wanted to go up to Rashi, and he said, "You never learned Rashi." So I'm giving you an example. Or you never learned Teisbus. You don't go into Teisbus. Or Yeshiva. They have Yeshivas.
Right.
So whatever you're doing here in a certain thing, it's all Kabbalah soul. It's all a preparation for Mashiach to come. Now it's not for the world to come, it's when Mashiach comes. And basically, I'm the Rebbe's a chassid, so I learn every day the Rebbe's chassidus. Negayas is kashas, I learn 3 prakim Rambam because I'm older. I made a choice, instead of 1 perek, 3 prakim. It's very hard, it's very boring, it's very difficult, but I don't, if I miss out, I don't mashlim. I can't do this. Because then it has no end to it. It's not my tchunas hanefesh. But I make sure every day in the morning I'm done Rambam or like that. I don't leave it on the last minute.
How did you deal with the whole Chavzai Nader?
So I was in Argentina. I was on a wedding by Chaim Lapidus. I used to do business with him in the textile business.
Right.
And Shabbos, I was drunk out of my mind.
Chavzai Nader by Mendel Gravich. Mendel Gravich's chasna.
No, it was.
We're talking about Gilul Tammuz already.
It was by Chaim Lapidus. His daughter got married to Farkas.
That's Gimel Tammuz. I know them.
Yeah, Gimel Tammuz, yeah.
Okay, so you're jumping to Gimel Tammuz already.
What are you talking about?
I asked about Chavzai Nader. Okay.
Oh, Chavzai, I can tell you about Chavzai Nader also.
Okay, first tell the story.
No.
Let's go in order then. Okay.
Chavzai Nader.
Because I'm trying to understand, how did you deal with this whole the whole thing falling apart?
Chavzai Nader. The day of Chavzai Nader, I come to 770. I came from Mincha. Court case was the first half of the day. I came from Mincha. And I see Moshe Klein getting into the ambulance. I said, where are you going? He says, the Rebbe's gefallen in the hill. So I drove after him through all the traffic. And I came before him to the hill. I went into the hill. And I give a look, the Rebbe is in an ambulance from Queens. One shoe fell off his foot. He was laying on the bed, holding on the rail for dear life, and without a hat. And
he was in the ambulance.
In the ambulance. The ambulance was there for a half an hour, close to an hour. I don't remember exactly how much. Nobody was there. Nobody.
Just Yudel.
He wasn't there.
Yudel wasn't there.
No.
Who called the ambulance? Yudel called the ambulance.
Yeah, but he left somehow. He wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I remember.
You didn't see anybody else.
The only one who was there was Spielman. He
What
was
did
a bacher who used to come to the hill.
Every time.
Every time with the Rebbe. He sat in the car following the Rebbe. So you could ask him. He remembers me there. I stood there. He actually met me a couple days ago.
You had any clue what was going on?
Huh?
You had any clue what was going on?
The Rebbe gefallen in the hill. He had a stroke.
You knew there was a stroke right away.
I don't know what I knew. I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay.
Anyway, so I stood there by the ambulance because the windows of the ambulance, you could see clearly what was going on. The Rebbe laying there. So I didn't let nobody go there. For the covet of the Rebbe. Plain and simple.
People were starting to come.
Yeah, here, there. I didn't let anybody go there. You'll ask Spielman, he'll tell you. Yossel Mochkin was there. He actually saw me last week in the ale or 2 weeks ago, and he said to me, I remember, he says, I want to thank you. He says to me, you did a big service there that you didn't let anybody look on the Rebbe. And so, a melech. You know.
Yeah.
It was my opinion that I never knew before Chavzai Nader or Gimel Tammuz that the Rebbe was a person. Never occurred to me. The Rebbe is like a malach. The tzaddik I was very, very angry and upset when they started to talk about the Rebbe's pancreas or particular ivarim or eyes. Or
You're saying after the stroke.
After, I was very angry. So Helen Vehester, that's what I called it in my heart and soul. And but it never occurred to me before Gimel Tammuz or after that the Rebbe is a basar v'dam like me and you. I never wanted to look at it that way, and I still don't want to look at it that way. So this is the story of Chavzai Nader.
But 1 second.
And then they brought the Rebbe to the 770,
right.
And they made over there. They were building there the Weiberschul, what? Anyway, there was construction stuff there. They put a tarp there when the truck came in, and they carried out the Rebbe. Nobody should see, they said that only those who work for Hatzolah can participate, like Ingi Bistritsky and Bishop Klein. They could participate in taking the Rebbe in the room, and they were later guys who helped the Rebbe whatever needed to be done.
But explain a little bit what you're saying. You don't see that as a bus of a dumb. I mean, every Lubavitch Rebbe was born and then passed away. Saying, explain a little bit. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm just trying to understand what you mean by
the
that.
Rebbe's Aveda was l'mayla mederech hateva. How do you answer 100,000 people? How do you answer 1,000 letters? How do you run the whole world?
Right.
It's like Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not. You have to believe that. How did the Rambam make such a pirush? A person can't make a pirush like this.
Right.
So there kicks in over here a keich liki that's not lefi aravan and asagid. It's
okay.
So
that makes sense, but
more than that.
But they all pass away eventually, right?
1 second, you focused on Narishkeit. More than that, even what I do,
Right.
if it's not the keiches elikim that the Rebbe gives me,
Right.
what can I do on my own?
Right.
You have a voice. I love to sing. Can you make it better 10% than what you have?
Right.
You could make exercise from day till night. It's not.
It is what
Can
it
I
is.
make my head? I can make it a little bit, develop it, but I can't.
Right.
So it's all what you're given from Hashem. And when you learn Torah, they tell you that Slocha could be a guy to Motzasa, Be'ef Mitzia, the Rebbe said that is Shalei Lefierach.
Right.
That's a matona from the Rebbe.
Right.
Matnas Elokus. So when you're talking about Chaim, there's no question in my life the Rebbe is alive, the Rebbe is the Nasi, the Rebbe is here. He's not in his goof. I didn't see his goof since Gimel Tammuz. But I did see something by Gimel Tammuz. I want to tell you that.
Go ahead.
I was in Argentina by Chaim Lapidus. I did business with him. I went there. And Farkas.
Usher got married, yeah. I know him very well.
So I'm sitting there in the hotel, 5 a.m. I was drunk like a herring.
What's Shabbos?
The whole Shabbos I was drunk.
But 5 o'clock in the morning, what's Shabbos?
Yeah. And Argentinian time.
It's a few hours ahead, yeah.
And I hear a knock on my door. In the morning, I hear a knock on my door. And I open, and there's 2 shluchim standing there. The guy's name is Gloiberman, and some other guy from Ashdod, Israel, or somewhere in Israel. One is a tall guy and one is a short guy. They go around collecting money everywhere in Argentina. And anyways, Oirachman, one is them, his name.
Yeah.
So
Haifa.
Yeah, somewhere, whatever. So one is a tall black guy with a black beard, and one is with a short guy with an orange. If I can't, tall guy with a golden beard.
I don't know. I lived in Argentina.
They're like a team.
I remember them coming. Yes.
Yeah. So they open the door. You could ask them. They open up the door. They knock on the door, and I say, "What happened in New York?" I said, "Did Mashiach come?"
You asked them.
Yeah. They said, "Call your wife." I called my wife. My wife didn't know what happened. I told him, I had a vision. I saw a tremendous light, and I see the Rebbe walking towards me and passing by me. I never saw such air, such tremendous air. And I said, something happened. Did Mashiach come?
Mm.
And later I found out that it was Chazai Nadir.
It's Gimel Tammuz.
Gimel Tammuz. I came home. I was sick for at least a week or 2. Totally sick.
You came back for the Levaya?
No, I wasn't there by the Levaya.
You missed it.
I came back a couple days later. I was sick for several days. In bed, sick. And I sweated, and one morning I woke up, I was another person. Before I was totally zuzetstavstiker and I lost it. There was a sign in the door, hang in there, whatever. And how did I know my marriage was a good marriage? My wife said to me, Yossel, if we're the 2 last people in the world who believe in Mashiach and Gula, the Rebbe's Mashiach, till our last breath, I'm there with you. That's when I knew that she's on board with me. I never lied. To me, it's a gift. The Rebbe's Mashiach, the Geula is coming. This is the daughter of the Geula. The Eibshter created the whole world for me. This is the Tachlis of the Baal Shem Tov and the Geula. How could it be any other way? And the Rebbe is there, but even from Helen. So to me, I don't concentrate on this. It happens to be I wasn't here, Gimel Tammuz. I didn't see nothing.
Right.
But so it helped me a little in that aspect of it. It was more
abstract,
and it was a couple of years of very difficult psychological Helen. I called it a Helen.
You're saying after the stroke?
After the stroke was a Helen, yeah. And
but what about the? To me, one of the ideas that keeps on coming up when I talk to people is that, you know, there was a sense before Chav Zayin Adar that everyone knew that Mashiach has to come, atat, right? And he is coming,
atat, yeah.
Right. But now it's 30 years later, right? And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, the things that we said 30 years ago didn't pan out the way we said they would.
I came.
Right, and I'm just trying to understand how you. I
can't concentrate on this question. I'll tell you something else. I came.
You
understand where I come from.
You're saying you don't like the question.
I came. No, I can't hear it yet. Give me a space a little.
Okay.
I came to my mother and sister were sitting there. My mother in her house. When I came here, I came up to their house and I said, maybe it's all baloney. Maybe it's all a lie.
But
you guys are peasants. You came from Russia hanging your clothes behind you never had a washing machine and dryer. You sold me a story, and it's all a bluff. I said, what is this?
You said this to your mother.
My mother and my sister. So I says, I'm going to come back tomorrow. I want an answer.
Uh-huh.
So come back the next day. They're sitting there, and they said to me, I think you're right. I asked the question very good. Even stronger than I'm saying it to you.
Yeah.
So I said to my mother and sister, I didn't make a statement. I asked the question. Then I went to Rabbi Marlow.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Rabbi Marlow, can I say Yechiyad Neinu just like before? I said, I'm not asking you to say it. I want to say it. I want to continue on. But if it's Apicursus, I won't say it. But if it's not Apicursus, I wasn't sure. But if it's not Apicursus, so he answered me like a Rav answers. He says, Wollt es gewen Apicursus, wollt ihr gesagt, that I can't say it. But this was my approach. I don't need nobody to tell me what my moral compass is. Who's the Eibshter? Who's the Rebbe? 90% of the stuff that I do, that I learn and daven, and to the Eibshter, I don't see. I never saw the Eibshter. I never understood the Rebbe. I never understand what I'm learning. Half of it, 90% doesn't make sense to me anyway. So where do you cut it? He's dead. He's alive. You know, Reb Yossel Mochkin, my friend of mine. He went into Borough Park, some Hasidische Polischer Bulvan. Says to him, Dan Rebbe lebt. He says to him, sagt in man weiß das, Dan Rebbe lebt, weil ist Kegel. That's the answer.
Uh-huh.
Von wann weiß das Dan Rebbe lebt? Weil kann essen Kegel? He can perform. I didn't know the Rebbe is a goof gashmi in a basar of a dome. That wasn't. I didn't see that. Can I veer off a moment?
Yes.
What in was koch is sich? You want to know a chassid in was koch is sich? So ich koch sich mainly. The focus of my day is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Because in a way, it's the holiest part of the davening, Mesiras Nefesh, Nechot, and there's the Birchas Yetzer, Birchas Krishma, to prepare for Krishma. What is this all about? And then the Shemoneh Esrei is Yichud Yiloah, is Atzilus. What is this all about? So it took me years to figure out, step by step. Years. It's every week when you learn a Maimer, a Likutei Torah, or a Sicha, or a Vort. It's usually es geht nicht durch a Woche oder maximum 2, was sagt nicht der Wort nicht Shema Yisrael. So in the last week or two, so yesterday was, I said a word that it says in the Maimer that there's a difference from Ava and Ava's Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Ava, if you have a little love for somebody, if you want to have more love, it doesn't come natural. You have to be misbeinen. You have to work on it to develop and reveal more and more attachment and love, whatever you call it. Yira, if you have Yira Shemayim, it'll grow organically. As long as you have a little bit fear of Hashem in you, as time goes on, you don't have to make an extra effort.
Interesting.
That's what it says in the Bible. So I'm Kafton Malkin Shimon God Bible is Choyachet Cholavo Shmecho Avasel Maftonu V'Hafta Hashem Elokecha. What is this all about? You should love God. He should love you. Yeah, Sarusa Lotata, Sarusa Leila. Then there's that Lotata that makes us Sarusa Leila. But what is this all about? So yes, I was saying Shchinta Begalusa. The Eberstead doesn't like us because he's in Golus. Our behavior is not the way it should be. On the other hand, when we pray to him, when we devote to him, when we talk to him, when we think about him, it brings out compassion in us, and he starts to love us in turn, and his love is more than our love, and we can. That's one thing. What Mesiras Nefesh and Shema Yisrael is.
Right.
Another thing is profound. It says Shema is his bonus. Shema Hashem Ayin. Shem Sak, Shema, we're talking a lot of things that you learn. But then there's Israel is Yosher Kel. What means Yosher Kel? That a Yid is aligned with Kel. Yeshishim Ribu Islatera. A Yid, the Gashmis and the Ruchlis have to fuse. Through your Avedas Hashem, through your Mesiras Nefesh, how do you become one with Hashem? Only a Yid could align with the Eberstead. Nothing else. Not a goy, not. So Israel is Yosher Kel. Israel is also Ol Machshava Chelik Al Kamim Al Mamish.
Right.
What is this all about? So we're coming to Rosh Hashanah. Malchus Zechrein Shefres. We have to remind the Eberstead. Tchile created the world. Kichofetz Chesed.
Right.
And then Tola B'Maisa Tachtenim. We have to, through our Aveda, awaken him that he should want to create the world because he loves us, because he has a tainuk from us, our behavior. So, every day, when you're saying Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, you're reaching out to your neshama. That's a chelik al kamim al mamish. Hecher from Seder Ishtalshul is before he created the world, and now you're reaching out there. Please create the world. That's our job.
Right.
So when you're saying in Mesiras Nefesh in Shema Yisrael, you're actually connecting with Hashem. L'mayla b'seder ishtalshus. First create the world for a Yid, and then Ani Hashem Elokeichem, and Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, and then Nochim Melech Elam. That's why I created the other world. Right. I actually saw a word in the Maimer a week ago that B'shvil Yisrael B'shvil Umas Elam. Nivro Elam. It's an unusual.
Right.
So that was another word. I don't want to get into this. So here. So that's my soul. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Every day, you're saying Hashem, create the world again.
Right.
Then there's another word. The neshama comes down in this world. It's in prison. It's in nefesh abamis, mashcha dechivya.
Right.
It's in prison.
Right.
So when you're saying Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, if only for that moment, only for that moment, the neshama goes out of prison. So that's why you say at the end of Krishma, Ani Hashem Elokeichem Asher Yitzeis Eschem Eretz Mitzrayim. What does it have to do to Shema Yisrael? The answer is the neshama went out from Medidus Vagbolas, from Mitzarim and Gvulim. It went out of its prison.
Right.
Frechtig the Shaila, and then I'm adding it. It's just a Al Der Chatzachas. Frechtig the Shaila, but it's only for 1 minute. Right. So first of all, he says in the Maimer that you have to be mamshich, that you say the rus from the Ave, from the Flam Fakir, from the Eish alakus, avatz alakus. You have to be mamshechit from the davening to the learning. Ashri mishabol kam tamudu biyodei doesn't mean when you come in Elam Haba. It means here after davening. You are mamshech that yechidus and islahavus in Teda. Then you could be mamshechit a whole day in business.
Right.
Now you know why you're davening. Now you know why you're saying Shema Yisrael. Now you know what's the purpose in. So I asked the question, but it's only for one moment. It's Shema Yisrael, although it leads up to it and it continues on.
Right.
There's a lot more to say, but when you come home Friday night and say Shalom Aleichem, Malach Hashoris, Be'echem L'Shalom, Berchuni L'Shalom, Tzechem L'Shalom, get the hell out of here. Come here, bless me, be with me, and get out of here.
No.
Why don't you at least wait till after the meal? Why do you say it right away?
Right.
Tzechem L'Shalom.
Right.
Is there emphasis? I saw it in Kriya Vekdusha. The emphasis as the Rinyan Sechshenogetan. So in Ruchnis, it doesn't require Zman and Mokim.
Right.
The only thing is, he says in the Kriya Vekdusha, what kind of malachim are these that you're saying Shalom Aleichem? That depends on your hanhagi a whole week. If you behaved and you made mitzvahs and you made good malachim, those are good malachim. If you didn't behave, this could be malachim hazikim. Then you don't even want to invite them, but you have no choice. So the same thing is, I'm saying here, the answer should not get done. So you say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. You're talking about your neshama. You're talking about das als is gesagt geworden. He says.
So, but how does this answer the question about?
Second.
Okay.
Let me finish the word.
Okay.
That's my word.
Okay, no problem.
Das als gered. It's like he says in the Maimon. It's like a chesem misapeches.
Right.
You make an imprint. You use
Reverse.
a sign like that.
Reverse. Yeah.
If there's schmutz in between, it doesn't make an imprint.
Right.
If your nefesh abamis is full of crap, and it's verstunken,
right,
and it doesn't align. Shema Yisrael, the Yosher Kale.
Right.
So you can't just be a whole day a low life and come here. Oh, I said Shema Yisrael. The Meibishn, ich habe the Meibishn von neck and the geh weiter. You got to incorporate it in your anhage, in your aveda, in your cleanliness, zu trachten rein, und reden rein, und uiseinig. That's the idea. That's the question.
So the question is how. What was the question? My question was how do you reconcile the sense of, like you were saying a long time earlier in the conversation, every business has a strategy, every people in their own lives have a vision of what's going to happen, and 30 years ago everybody was convinced they knew that Mashiach's coming. Atat. He had to come atat. And it's been 30 years, right? So how do you reconcile those two things?
When a person goes to sleep, that's what I said to myself. When a person goes to sleep and he wakes up in the morning, 8 hours went by,
right,
and he doesn't feel the 8 hours.
Right.
When somebody dies, he died. And then he wakes up, Mashiach is coming to his amazing, he's up. I from my perspective, nothing happened. He went to sleep and he woke up. Whether it takes a year or 30 years.
I'm not talking about the Rebbe now.
I'm trying to explain to myself, like, what happened. So I'm not afraid of dying. What's the difference? What did the Rebbe come and say? The Rebbe said, the Seder Eilam is Azeh. There's a Maimer from Friedrich Rebbe, Erev Aveker B'Tzoroim. There's Baker, the childhood, the baker of a person's life. There's Tzoroim, midlife crisis, midday.
Right.
And there's Erev. Erev is
the eve, yeah.
Evening.
Sunset.
Or the way he touches in the Maimer, Erev is sweet.
Uh-huh.
In the older age, you could have a Noah from a mitzvah, a bismillach, kinder. You deserve already a little, vacation on old age.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole world is not wrong. You say, Mashiach comes, I'll deal with it. So to say that is, when you're young, you go to cheder, you learn a trade, you do some business, you get married, you have some children, And then you get older, you go to Florida a couple of years. Then you die, you go to Gan Eden a little. And then when Mashiach comes, you come back. Very good. That's the way it's been done for 2,000 years.
Right.
Sagt der Rebbe, ich will nicht ein Gan Eden nach Tachten, ich will nicht Gan Eden nach Alien, ich will nicht in Florida und ich will nach dir allein, ich will Geula now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. I'm not afraid to die and then I'll go to Gehenim, they'll schmeißen, machen dem Reten Tages, and I'll become, and then mit Ruistreden, and then I'll arrive to my Rebbe's Heichal. I'm not afraid of that. But no, the Rebbe said, I don't want it. I want Mashiach here with all you, with all these right here now. That message never went away. That never, doesn't have to be, could be 30 years, it could be 100 years, could be I'll die, could be I won't die. Who's machlit what time is, who's machlit what space is, who's machlit how it's going to be. It's all Torah, it's all the Rebbe, what he told us. If anybody else, I said to somebody, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I said, on the spur of the moment, I said, if the Rebbe said he's going to die, he died. To me, what the Rebbe said? The Rebbe said it's Chai Elam, and it's cool, and so that's what it is. Who's machlit al Torah? The Torah is machlit, not the circumstances are machlit by me. That's otherwise I'm still a bok, I'm a snagid who doesn't understand anything, who says that the Gemara say so or not. What is bittul? What is bittul b'mitzias? He doesn't know what you're talking about. It doesn't say Gemara.
So you're coming back to what the Rebbe told you back then, that your thing is to do. You're just action first.
Ma'aseh b'peil, that's what brings the gula. Dover echad makriyas kol elam, eser kol elam kapsulos, maybe sure about solar.
Saying that's how you live your life.
First of all, I realized that
Had something changed?
Zayda Peretz
Yeah.
was walking with Rabbi Yisrael Jacobson. I was about 8 years old. And there was a Shabbos Mincha time, and they're walking down Albany Avenue near Empire. And my Zayda Peretz says to Yisrael, Shokter, Ba'onji de Chalz Hakol Revach. I was like 8 years old. And Yisrael says, Vosh? Zokter, nu Zokter. Alle Chavedim zijn schon nicht da. Is jeder Tag, was der Eberster gibt, ist gefunden der. Who am I? A stupid, moronic idiot who is Nisagot Nisalite. I'm from Olotera. Not Gashmius, not Ruchnius, I don't know. I came into the Rebbe and asked the Rebbe a brocha when I was in the Millionaires Club. It's a different parsha. And I said, ich bet a brocha for Rebbe, af hashirus muflogel and mailam derech hateva b'teva nireh v'anigle. And the Rebbe answered, no, this to me is everything. Gashmius and Ruchnius. I'm just waiting for the money to pour in. You understand? That to me is real. The Mashiach isn't coming out, who are you? I'm going to say, I'm a member of the Rebbe's Millionaires Club. There's 200 of them, I'm one of them. That's all.
What's the story of the Millionaires Club? I don't even know what that is.
There was the 950 Club, the Millionaires Club, where all the rich people came twice a year. They gave 20...
Machne Yisrael.
Machne Yisrael. I was there in that club.
Uh-huh.
I woke up one morning and I said... what did I say? No, I said... You're looking into eyes of Hashem. No, I forget the lashon I said to myself. But I said, you're able to... Or something like that. It slipped my mind right now. But I said, you could ask whatever you want. You could. I could have gone to the Rebbe anytime and asked for a bracha for yechidus. But this is the place for the Millionaires Club. This was Panim b'Panim Dibar Hashem. So I said, I'm not living. I came in. I gave the Rebbe $20,000 a check, and I'm in. So I asked the Rebbe for bracha. He came, and there's a lot of other things that happened when I was there. And yechidus, words. And
has something changed for you over the past 30 years?
Gradually, everything changed.
No,
it took me years to paint the house.
No, I'm not talking about that.
To fix the toilet, to fix the kitchen.
You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking.
And the same thing in Ruchnis.
Okay,
it took me years to understand what Shema Yisrael is. I just explained to you.
No, but I'm talking fundamentally. Has anything changed to you about how you see the story of Lubavitch, the story of the Rebbe, the story of?
Well. How do you explain the expansion and the greatness and not just expansion in numbers, in eichus? How many Sfarim are there? Chassidus Muveris. You come into my basement.
Right.
Wherever you go, and the other room was also full of Sfarim. There's no reason not to learn. You don't even need Sfarim. You need a tablet that you go open every sefer you want.
Right. Right.
Where did you have those opportunities? My grandfather was a brilliant, who knew Chassidus by heart and everything. He didn't have access to what we have access.
Right.
He didn't have the explanations, all these explanations. At the time when I wasn't Yale's a Talmud.
You were.
I wasn't Altera. I was never his Talmud. I once came across him. He was teaching the Gunim between Mincha and Ma'ariv in 749. I was there.
Reb Yossel. Reb Yossel.
And he taught the Bochrim and Nigen. I started to sing, and I sang different than him. And everybody tells me to shut up, shh, like that. And he says to me, zing, zing, du weißt besser von mir, das geht von dein Sinn. So he knew who I was. He knew that I was singing the Nigen right. I wasn't his Talmud.
You say the parrots.
What about him?
I'm saying
I wasn't Reb Yosel's Talmud.
No, but you learned the niggin from your.
No, my Zayda Shlomo Shimanovich.
He was a big.
He was a Balmanagin.
That's what I'm asking. He was a big Balmanagin.
Half the songs in the Sefer HaNigunim is you'll see from Shlomo Shimanovich.
So your mother's father was a big Balmanagin.
It's not the voice; it's the.
I understand. He understood.
He brought back the Nigunim.
He was from
the other side of the river,
right.
And he knew them b'diuk.
Right, very meduyik.
He was an interesting person, my grandfather. He knew the Rebbe from when he was a bacher.
Oh, say his name again?
Reb Shlomo Shimanovich. He was in Kharkov a bacher.
Okay.
And he was a mefunik. He was a yosim. His father passed away. He was 8 years old. His half brother was Mesha Axelrod, the Mesha Axelrod. But the Rebbe Rashab gesagt hat, wenn ich hab 10 Meshkes, und ich kennt ganz Russland. And he took him to yeshiva, I think Ramachuk or wherever he was, then in Kharkov. And he had black pox, and he barely survived. And then he was in Kharkov. The Rebbe was a year in Kharkov with his brother.
Right.
His brother was in the sanitarium.
Yeah,
my grandfather.
I think the Rebbe Rashab referred to there once as Kharkov, a younger man or something. Is that true? You heard that before?
No, I didn't hear that, but it's possible. I don't know everything. So he sat there for a year, watching over his brother, who was in the sanitarium, Beryl.
Your grandfather was watching his older brother. The Rebbe
was there for a year in Kharkov.
That's what he was doing in Kharkov, yes. with his brother Beryl.
Yes, and
wow.
And the Rebbe ate in a krechme by somebody who used to cook for him, for people.
Oh, so the Rebbe was there by himself. His parents were not there.
Nobody was there.
Just
was there.
Watching his brother.
His brother.
Wow.
And actually, his brother got killed by the Nazis in the sanitarium. I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
The history. So anyway,
this is which year was this? This is before the Rebbe was married?
It was before my grandfather. Yeah, I assume so.
That was a bacher.
So anyway, so my grandfather was a mefunik. He was very finicky and clean and articulate. He hated my Zayda Peretz's ways of handing me the hand and mashke. He was a very
the best to mention.
A speck on his
a city
to the point where the Rebbe called him Misnagid, like the Misnagid.
Yeah, the Rebbe said
once, but I'll tell you, this is another story.
So you're saying he was a city man, relatively. He was more. Kharkov was more of a city, wasn't it?
I don't know. He married my grandmother, he was the Rav in the Shtad, the Baron Tomarkin. He became the Edom in Kharkov of the Rav of Kharkov. And Yud Chitrik was his brother-in-law, and Tzemach Gorevich was his brother-in-law, and Lebe Khan. Anyway, so he said, my grandfather, a whole year, he used to eat in the same table in the krechme like the Rebbe ate a whole year. And so I asked him, what did the Rebbe say, talk, conversation? He said the Rebbe never spoke anything to anybody. Just once he mixed into some halacha, he said. But the only thing he remembers, the Rebbe came, he wore a white collar. It's called a dickie. He didn't have a whole shirt.
Right.
The dickie is what cut off, the Magidim used to wear it, he told me.
Right.
It was white, he said, but it was black because he had only one shirt a whole year.
What's as far as his parents didn't have any money?
I'm telling you what he told me.
I'm saying,
This is what he had, what
was
he
he trying
didn't
to
have.
tell you something about that?
Das gedenk ich von dem. Also, er hat getragen dieselbe Hemd.
He was just telling you a fact. Okay.
The same cutout shirt a whole year.
Huh.
It was clean, but it was already black because there was only one shirt that he had.
Right.
That's the story in a nutshell. When you're talking about stuff like that.
This has been quite a ride. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for making the time. And thank you very much. So, and you should have a complete refuah shlema. Get back to yourself. And hatzlacha Rebbe. The music for this podcast comes from the album Repentant Doors by Oren Sor Nadav Bachar and is used with their permission.